We're now joined by Baseball Hall of Famer Dave Winfield. Dave, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. I want to begin by looking back before you even got to the University of Minnesota. And I'm curious to know, where did you learn that you could be so good at so many different sports?
Uh, when I grew up in actually 50s and 60s, I don't like to necessarily say that, kids used to be allowed to play every sport. We had a recreation center back in St. Paul that was a half a block away. So whatever season it was, that's what you did. Winter time, we would skate, summer baseball, basketball, fall football. So you never know what you can accomplish. I've heard people say it's not so much where you're from. It really isn't where you're from. You never know what you can be. And so I just didn't have any restrictions on. I just played. I knew I was good at baseball. Basketball blossomed later. And you never know what you're going to achieve. You don't. Even at the professional level, I didn't know what I could achieve. So I would just say that to anybody listening. You just don't know what's in you or what you're going to do.
Yeah, now I want to ask you about being at the University of Minnesota. When you first get there in 1969, what was the experience like for Black students and Black student athletes?
Wow, great question. Minnesota then, as now, it only had maybe 1% African American. I'll tell you, the semester before I arrived, there were protests. I mean, this is late 60s. There were protests. I mean, Martin Luther King had been killed and Kennedy. And there was a lot of unrest around the country, but there was protest about there is no African American studies department at the school. And they protested, took over the administration building, all the things that you hear today, all the police are going to come after you and all that kind of stuff. They stuck to their guns. They said, we need this, not a professor, African-American professor or not a class, but we want a department. And thus the school agreed to allow or to have African-American studies. I have the ability to look back, that hindsight, and say, they did the right thing for the right purpose and it worked and it is in play today. And so those were the kind of things. But, if you looked at our basketball team, you say, whoa, they got a lot of brothers at that school or whatever. But then I would go play baseball and they say there aren't very many because there was myself and another African-American player. And that was it. And I might have been the first to ever get a baseball scholarship at the University of Minnesota.
What a lot of people don't really realize about you, they know about your baseball pedigree, obviously as a major leaguer, and they know that you play in the outfield, but you were a pitcher at Minnesota and a very good pitcher. What was Dave Winfield's pitch mix as a pitcher? What did your pitching repertoire look like?
Well, now everybody, it's funny. Everybody now it's only velocity for a maximum effort for every pitch. And what was your spin rate? I can tell you, I knew I threw in the mid 90s and I could blow you away. I had a nasty slider. I learned that after playing summer ball in the Alaskan Summer League. And I remember telling our athletic director at the University of Minnesota, because you have to have a little bit of cockiness in you. But I told him, his name was Paul Giel. He was an excellent athlete at the University of Minnesota, played professional football for a bit. I told him, I'm going to break your strikeout record. You know that, don't you? He said, if you can do it, do it. And I did it. So I was all Big Ten as a pitcher. And they didn't let me hit until my senior year. You may not know that. My entire professional career was as a hitter, and they only let me hit 1 year at the university, my last year.
That's unbelievable. You nearly hit 500 home runs as a major leaguer. You didn't hit it all in college.
Incredulous, I'll just say, sometimes coaches don't always know what's best for an athlete. My friends would say, put Winfield in, he's the best hitter you got. Let him hit. And I would act like I'm like I'm embarrassed, louder. So anyway, the coach Dick Siebert saw the great summer that I had in the Alaskan League as a pitcher and a hitter against the best people in the country, and we were national champions, how could you not give me the opportunity? So they let me hit my last year, as I had always done my entire life, and had an exceptional senior year hitting and pitching.
You get drafted by in the NBA by the Hawks. You get drafted in the ABA. You get drafted in the National Football League, a sport you hadn't played in college, by the Vikings. So just where were you when you were finding all these things out, and just kind of what did you think about the fact that even now you're still the only person that's been drafted in 4 pro leagues?
I was probably the least experienced college basketball player that was a starter for a nationally recognized team and winning Big Ten championships and vying for, leading the nation in defense and a whole lot of things. I never saw that on my horizon. I played basketball. I said, I'm going to play baseball, but I'll play with my friends. I'll play another year with my guys, my friends. And then sat out a year, my sophomore year, and didn't play basketball. I said, I'm just going to focus on my academics. Let me focus on baseball. And we had a great intramural team. It should go on record, the Soulful Strutters. We were the best in the university. And but then I came back my junior year. They convinced me to come back. They said, in a nutshell, instead of that measly partial scholarship in baseball, can we attract you with a full ride in basketball? I said, as long as I can play baseball, now you're talking. It was a difficult, stressful time to get your schoolwork, to maintain your health, your sanity, play 2 sports at the highest level, major expectations. And I did it. I don't think I'd recommend it for everybody. You asked me how was it at the university? I wouldn't recommend that for everybody. A lot of stress, a lot of expectations, but I made it through, and I think it made me who I am today.
Now, when it comes to baseball, obviously you played San Diego, you played in New York, you played in Minnesota again, you played in Toronto. You won the World Series with the Blue Jays. Taking that out of the equation, what was your most memorable moment as a big leaguer?
Just saying that I belong here. I did that with one of the points was the great Bob Gibson, who passed recently. I met him my first year I was in San Diego. I saw him in a store, and I walked up to Bob Gibson and I said, Bob Gibson, I was reaching out. My name is Dave Winfield, San Diego Padres. He looked me up and down. He grunted. He didn't say, back in the day, guys weren't all friendly and buddy. And I said, I'm going to get him one day when I face him. So the next series we played in San Diego, I'm ready for him. First time up, even though he was old, struck me out. Okay, I'm quiet until I get into the dugout behind the scenes, and people say, what is that racket in there? I'm hot. Next time I get up, we're down by 2 men on base. He has 2 strikes on me, same pitch, slider low and away, and I hit a 2-iron out of left center. Pow! I took my time around the bases, looked at him all the way, walked across home plate and pointed to him. I said, I'm here too. Like, give me some respect. And the guys, Cito Gaston, Nate Colbert, my buddies, and said, are you crazy at Bob Gibson? Later for Bob Gibson. Give me some respect. Next time I got him, first 2 pitches were right at the coconut. But I was quick. I played dodgeball and stuff when I was a kid. I was too quick. You weren't going to hit me. They took him out of the game. Later on, Hall of Fame, we're together and everything. And he remembered the story. He said, no, but Dave, I'm a nice guy. I was always a nice guy. I said, come on, man. So that's just one of 1,000 stories of an incredible life and experiences that I had playing the sport. Baseball, University of Minnesota, and then baseball, basketball, all of this has been a rich life, has made me who I am.
One of the positives that happened as a result of your career, and that is your foundation, the Dave Winfield Foundation. You've been able to help people not just in your hometown in Minneapolis and St. Paul, but also in San Diego, in Toronto, in the New York area. What does it mean to you when you sit down and reflect on what the foundation has done after all these years? I guess it's been about 45 years now.
Yeah, I was actually the first active athlete, create their own nonprofit 501c3. And I just always wanted to give back. I knew there were people who I stood on their shoulders, whether it was sports, business, life, whatever. And I always was ready to give back. And I think it has something to do with my family, has something to do with maybe the church, the community I grew up in. Minnesota is a giving place. I was very proud of that. And other people would ask me. I helped Arthur Ashe work on his foundation. I helped Martina Navratilova create hers. So I'll say this as I connected with some of the unrest today, that I've always been aware that there are inequities. Things are not fair or equal the way things have been set up in society. And this was my way of giving back. I did a lot of things in this area, very proud of it. And I'm happy to see so many athletes now giving back as they do. But I guess I was the pioneer. I had no one to lead me, to tell me. Let's do this. And I had to get more sophisticated as we went along.
How does it feel to be considered a pioneer?
It's an honor. It's appreciated. A young kid from St. Paul, Minnesota, you don't know what you're going to accomplish. And I think the things that I would say that help make me who I am: read, travel, meet new people. Because once your mind has been expanded, it never goes back to its original size. You ask me, what does it mean to be a pioneer? I guess it's good. I mean, we're not reading about a guy that's no longer with us. You're talking about somebody that's with us. So I appreciate that honor and recognition.
Yeah, well, we are so glad to share it, and reading, traveling, and get to know somebody that's not like you. That's great advice. Those three things, I'm going to start carrying that with me. Dave Winfield, we really appreciate your time. I could talk to you all day, but This was fantastic. Thank you.
Been my pleasure. Thank you, guys.